You want a really radical idea? All right, don't fall off the chair.
Probably the most popular sitting politician in America. But as you know, let's both be blunt, not everyone's a fan. Would you consider yourself a Zionist?
No. Democrats do not acknowledge that reality. Trump may be crazy, but at least he's trying to do something.
Senator Bernie Sanders, welcome to the Axios Show. I really appreciate you taking so much time to have a real conversation about the Democratic Party, about the issues facing the country. And you've been busy. Did a town hall with AOC last week. You headlined the No Kings rally in DC on Saturday. Next Sunday, you are going to stump for Zohran Mamdani in New York ahead of early voting. And you also wrote another book. And it is called Fight Oligarchy. This is Axios. We just like to get to the point. So what is the oligarchy and why are you fighting it?
Look, it's easy to talk about Russia being an oligarchic society or a handful of billionaires and Putin run their country. Guess what? Guess what's happening in America? Today, you have more income and wealth inequality than we've ever had in the history of this country. You have fewer and fewer large media conglomerates controlling the media. Today, we have more concentration of ownership than we have ever had. Today, you got the billionaire class significantly controlling both political parties in a corrupt campaign finance system. Add all of that up. Guess what? You're living in an oligarchic form of society. Our job is to build a grassroots movement to fight back, to create a vibrant democracy and an economy and government that work for all, not just a few.
You also write in the book that Donald Trump, you say this, unlike most Democrats, understood that people were upset that they were living in a broken system. What does the Democratic Party stand for?
My point there is Trump may be crazy, which I think he is, may be a pathological liar, may be just a president who is doing such horrific authoritarian things. But he's not stupid. He's not stupid. And what Trump has always understood, unlike many Democrats, is the system is broken. You're a working class person today. And you know what? In the richest country in the history of the world, you can't afford housing. You can't afford healthcare. You can't afford childcare. You can't afford to send your kid to college. And if you go to the grocery store and you want decent quality food for your children, you can't afford that as well. Meanwhile, the richest people are becoming richer. So Trump understood that there are millions of people who are hurting, who are disgusted with the system. And in many ways, he said, I will fix it. System is broken. I will fix it. Now, everything he's doing, or virtually everything, taking us in the wrong direction. What do the Democrats campaign on? Well, I think in 13 years, I think maybe we can tinker around the healthcare system. If you're making $48,392, I think we may be able to help you for 2 years. All right. Meanwhile, we're the only major country on earth not to guarantee healthcare to all people as a human right. Do you hear the Democrats saying, maybe there's something wrong when so few have so much? Maybe we're going to demand that billionaires really start paying their fair share of taxes big time. Maybe, in fact, we should not have a situation where people can have hundreds of billions of dollars while Americans sleep out on the streets. Maybe we should do in America, you want a really radical idea? All right, don't fall off the chair.
Sure.
Maybe we should do what we did 70 years ago and make public colleges and universities tuition free so the kids don't have to go deeply in debt to get a higher education, et cetera, et cetera. In other words, Trump understood the system is broken. His solutions make it worse. Democrats do not acknowledge that reality, tick around the edges, and people say, Trump may be crazy, but at least he's trying to do something.
Do you think the current Democratic Party is worth saving?
I think the idea, what is in a name? You can have a great Democratic Party, you can have a terrible Democratic Party, you can have a great this or that. I think the idea, your question is, should we today abandon the Democratic Party, start building a third party? It's a fair question. I think it is enormously difficult to do. And I think what you're seeing right now, and we are working hard on this, there are thousands of people that we are working with, trying to help them run for school board, city council, state legislature. Number of them are running as progressive Democrats, but you know what? Many of them are running as independents. So we'll see where it goes. But I think you're seeing right now within the Democratic Party, at the highest level, people running for the Senate, Congress, at school board, city council, people saying, you know what, the Democratic establishment is wrong. We can't be dependent on corporate funding, billionaire funding. We got to stand up for the working class and take on the oligarchy.
You also write in your book that you felt that Kamala Harris ran a cautious campaign designed not to offend big business, big corporations. Her team would obviously object to that. What are some examples?
How would they object to that? I think it's very hard. And I'm speaking as somebody who ran all over the country, worked really hard to try to elect the vice president. You had a choice to make, and either you work with people like Mark Cuban, becomes a multi-billionaire, becomes your spokesman, whether or not you stand up and say, you know what, I am prepared to take on big money. I am prepared to stand with the working class. We are prepared, to transform our healthcare system to guarantee healthcare to all people. I didn't hear. I mean, the things that she said kind of reluctantly, we some of us pushed her very hard. I think it's very hard to say that Kamala Harris ran a campaign that spoke to the needs of the working class and was prepared to take on corporate greed and the oligarchs.
Now, Kamala Harris wrote in her new book that after President Biden dropped out, you two had a conversation. She recounted you saying something to the effect of, please focus on the working class, not just abortion.
That's right. I mean, that's pretty much what I said. In other words, look, I happen to believe very strongly that women have a right to control their own body. I think that's a major issue. I know Kamala feels the same way. And the Democrats have done a good job. I mean, we're taking on Trump and who's trying to undo that. In my view, the struggle for women's rights is enormously important. And Democrats deserve credit for the many achievements that we have seen. Gay rights, the same. And certainly the need to end all forms of bigotry in this country. God knows what we have gone through since slavery, et cetera, et cetera. And Democrats deserve credit for leading that effort. But what I said to her is, let's continue the fight to make sure that women can control their own bodies, abortion rights. But you can't turn your back on the working class of this country.
As you know, your candidate in Maine running for Senate, Graham Plattner, has been subject to a lot of fire and fury, stories of old posts, crude comments about black diners, about rural white people. You said yesterday you are still supporting him. Why?
I got to tell you, I am not overly impressed by a squad of media running around saying, what do you think about the tattoo on Graham Plattner's chest? Between you and me, there might be one or two more important issues. But let me go there. I'm not Graham's best friend. I met him several times. We did a rally in Portland, Maine, a great rally. I am impressed by the guy. This is a guy who will tell you who has served 4 tours of duty with the United States military. He was in the middle of some heavy duty combat. He was a machine gunner. That's what you do. You mow down people, He went through some very difficult experiences in the military as a machine gunner, seeing his friends killed. Came out of the military. He will acknowledge, I'm not telling you what he doesn't say, he had PTSD. He went to the VA, and by the way, what he says, they rebuilt his life. All right. He went into a dark period in his life. I suspect that Graham Plattner is not the only American to have gone through a dark period. But what he did was he expressed his darkness on the internet. Probably not a brilliant thing to do. All right. And he said things that are stupid, things that were hurtful. He has apologized for them. And what he says now, and the guy that I saw up on the stage in Portland, Maine, rather a brilliant guy. I mean, really a strong fighter for the working class, very articulate, very smart. And what he said is, I went through a dark period. I said stupid things. I am not the person today that I was back then. And I think as a nation, especially given the fact that we have a president who is convicted of 34 felonies, maybe we have to do a little bit of forgiveness.
Do you think Chuck Schumer and the Democratic establishment are behind these recent slate of stories?
Don't know.
Chuck Schumer said yesterday that he thought that Janet Mills would be the strongest bet. Why is he wrong?
Because I think at this, and I'm nothing against Janet Mills, who is governor there. I think at this particular moment in American history, having establishment type candidates doesn't really cut it. People are angry. People are hurting. People want candidates and public officials who are going to stand up and fight for them.
You and Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez have a very warm relationship. People that used to work with you really recall a huge moment in that relationship and that warmth being in the fall of 2019, right after your heart attack. You were in the hospital and she called you and endorsed you. Could you just recount that moment?
Obviously, I was very grateful for her support. I happen to think she is an incredibly intelligent person, and in the best sense of the word, a very, very good politician. I've been out on the streets with her. People come up, and how she responds to people is so incredibly genuine and open. You know, it's just something that's a gift that she has. It's a quality that she has. She's a great speaker out there. She comes from the working class. She was a kid. She was cleaning houses with her mother. She knows what it's like not to have any money. And she's going out fighting for working families all over this country. And I think as a young person who 6 years ago was a waitress, becoming politically prominent has been incredibly inspiring. When I go out there, you're seeing these young people, not just Latino kids, but kids all over the country saying, wow, it's just amazing. They light up when they see her. But I do want to say, you know, it's not just Alexandria. You got a lot of great young people right now in the Progressive Caucus in the House. Greg Azar in Texas doing a great job. Pramila Jayapal, Ilhan Omar. You got many of them. I mean, literally dozens. Young people, Maxwell Frost from Florida, people who have been elected as young people prepared to fight for the working class. And that gives me a lot of optimism about our political future.
Do you think she would be a formidable presidential candidate as someone that's done it twice?
Yeah, I think she would, and I think other people would as well. So that's her decision to make, and got a lot of other great people out there.
But you can see that from the crowd reaction that she would.
Now you tell me.
When it's not always raining, there'll be days like this. When there's no one complaining,
You're good to me.
there'll be days like this. My mama
This
told
way is
me
way faster.
there'll be days like this.
You write that a lot of Democrats do not vote against Israel because they are scared of AIPAC. Is AIPAC part of the oligarchy?
Yeah, of course they are. I mean, what makes AIPAC unique is that they're funded by billionaires. And they not only get involved in Democratic primaries trying to defeat progressive candidates, then afterwards they go and support Republicans. AIPAC has been successful over the years in defeating a number of strong members of Congress, progressives, who basically said what the American people, most Americans believe, in that maybe there's something wrong giving billions of dollars to the right-wing extremist Netanyahu government in Israel so that they can kill or injure 10% of the population of Gaza, over 200,000 people, mostly women, children, and the elderly, destroy the entire infrastructure, hospitals, schools, water systems. Maybe, and now in the last couple of months before the quote, hopefully ceasefire, starving children. So what people were saying, I don't think our taxpayer dollars should go to starve children in Gaza. And AIPAC said, really? Okay, we're going to spend hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars to defeat you. And in some cases, they've been successful.
Your family has faced anti-Semitism in its history. Your father fled Poland in the 1920s, violent anti-Semitism. Your uncle was in a ghetto and was killed by the Nazis. I'm curious how that family history has shaped your views of Israel and
Well,
Gaza.
let me add something to it. When I was a kid, I was in Israel for, I can't remember, 3 or 4 months, worked on several kibbutzim. I was very impressed by what I saw. Was very excited at the formation when I was a kid, the formation of the state of Israel. More than aware of the Holocaust, and which took people in my own family, and the horrible anti-Semitism that existed then exists today in America. So I'm proudly Jewish. But that does not mean in any way, shape, or form that I will support a right-wing extremist government in Israel that is doing horrific things to the Palestinian people.
Would you consider yourself a Zionist?
No, not within the terms of what Zionism means, no.
You talked about anti-Semitism in this country. Do you think that some of the advocates, well-meaning as they well be for Gaza, have occasionally veered into anti-Semitism?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. And I think, but on the other hand, what I will also say is somebody on the other side, that when people have been accused of anti-Semitism simply because they stood up to Netanyahu's extremist, racist policies. And that's been Netanyahu's, what he's attempted to do. Oh, if you attack Israel, you're an anti-Semite. No, you're attacking an Israeli government that is starving children. That does not make you an anti-Semite. Anti-Semitism is a disgusting ideology which has resulted in millions of deaths. It's part of the kind of racism we have seen in this country and around the world, and against Black people, against Latino people, against gay people. Our goal is to try to end all forms of bigotry, including ending the ugliness of anti-Semitism. I worry, and I'm not the only one, what the enormous transformational impact in our economy will be through AI and robotics. Okay? I want to see us rebuilding manufacturing in America, but it ain't going to do any worker any good if that manufacturing work is done by robots. Mm-hmm. I want to see small businesses develop. I want to see creativity out there in the economy. Ain't going to do any good for the younger people if the entry-level jobs are taken over by AI. And I'll tell you, Mr. Musk and Mr. Bezos and the richest guys, Mr. Ellison, the richest guys in this world are investing huge amounts of money into AI and robotics. And if you think that they give a damn about the needs of working class people, you would be mistaken. I think we're going to see massive job dislocation, and I worry about it. We got to get a handle on that.
Do you think OpenAI and ChatGPT should be broken up?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I do, but it's a deeper issue than that. We need to take a deep breath and understand that it's like, a meteor coming to this planet. We got to be prepared to deal with it in all of its complexity. Economically, I worry about massive loss of jobs. In terms of what it does to us as human beings, there are products not being sold as, you don't need to relate to a human being anymore. You will have somebody hanging around your neck as your AI buddy, right?
Yeah.
And in a country where there's a lot of emotional distress, I really worry about that. How we continue community, how we relate to each other as human beings. We worry about this super intelligent AI, which supersedes human intelligence. And one day, the AI says to the human being, sorry, but actually, no.
You worry about a Terminator-like scenario.
Something like that, yes.
Your ideas, democratic socialism is on the rise with millions of voters right now. You see this with Zohran Mamdani in New York. You see it with even your own personal popularity, one of the most popular, probably the most popular sitting politician in America. But as you know, let's both be blunt, not everyone's a fan. So
really? Oh my God. All right, you're crushing me.
Yeah. So I wanted to give you like a lightning round chance to respond to some of the critiques of your agenda.
I'm going to slow. I'm not great into lightning.
Okay.
I think ask me the question.
You got it.
Answer.
Since Obamacare passed, healthcare costs have gone up,
right,
not down.
Right.
Just more government interventions not going to help.
No, that's nonsense. I mean, I'm not a fan of Obamacare. I'm right now working my tail off to make sure that 15 million people don't lose their health insurance and the premiums aren't doubled or tripled. But at the end of the day, Obamacare is not the kind of healthcare system that we need in America. We need to do what is not radical. I live 50 miles away from the Canadian border. They somehow have managed to have for decades a healthcare system that guarantees healthcare to all people, freedom of choice regarding the doctor that you want, and yet they're spending half as much per capita as we do on healthcare.
Banning fracking is just going to drive up energy costs for working class families.
No. Trump took huge amounts of money from the fossil fuel industry in his campaign, made promises to them, pretty public about it. Hey, you give me money, I will protect your interest. He is doing that. He is endangering the planet for our kids and future generations. We must move away from fossil fuels.
Freezing the rent is just going to discourage private developers from building more housing, which then in turn will raise rents.
Oh, and they've been doing just a great job now building housing, haven't they? I mean, all over the country. That's all that they're doing, building low-income and affordable housing. Obviously, we have a major housing crisis. Maybe I'm old-fashioned. I don't think that people should be paying 40, 50, 60% of their limited incomes on housing.
The Biden administration embraced a lot of your agenda and spent trillions on it. But many economists think that that contributed to inflation, which hurt working class families.
What is easy to forget is that in the midst of COVID, 3,000 people every day were dying. The truth of the matter is we came out of that pandemic economically a lot faster than I think most people thought we would. Was there inflation? Yes. But given where we were in a paralyzed economy. We came out of it a lot faster, I think. And one of the reasons was some of the Biden initiatives.
So my last and I think my toughest question for you is I'm an LA Dodgers fan. And as you know, they're...
Oh, you didn't tell me that. Well, end of the interview. Get them out of here now.
And as you know, they're in the World Series starting late this week. And they also are owned by a multi-billionaire. Yeah. You, as a long-suffering Brooklyn Dodgers fan, how do you feel about it?
Yeah. May I tell you a story?
Sure.
Not a lightning story. Here's the story. When you're a kid was a kid growing up in Brooklyn, it was like the Brooklyn Dodgers, the Brooklyn Bridge. It's an institution. Honest to God, it never occurred to me or any other kid that it could be moved. How do you move Brooklyn? What are you going to do? And there was a story that went around that during that period, the three most hated names in Brooklyn were Hitler, Stalin, and Walter O'Malley, not necessarily in that order. All right. So it was, to me, and by the way, in a non-laughing sense, it had an impact on that community. The Dodgers brought people together, black, white, Latino.
How do you feel about the Dodgers owned by a multi-billionaire now being in the World Series? And by the way, I looked at the tickets. They're $800 a piece.
Okay. But don't get me off on another side, because it's not just the Dodgers. What you are seeing, and we should talk about, and we are, my office is going to get involved in this. Virtually every NFL team, every major basketball team, NBA, every major baseball team, who do you think owns them? They're all owned by billionaires. When I was a kid, I went to Evans Field in Brooklyn. You know what bleacher seats were at those times where we went? 60 cents. When we really got rich, we paid $1.25. All right, for another seat. In those days, actually, a family of four could go out to enjoy a baseball game without, blowing the family budget. And it saddens me that in many respects, what professional athletic, and I, as a kid, I was a bit of a jock, played basketball, was a runner. And I respect these athletes enormously. They're great athletes. But it does really bother me that with billionaire ownership of almost every major team in America, whether it's baseball, basketball, football, hockey, whatever it may be, they charge these outrageous prices. And it become a corporate type of activity. They have all these great boxes, right, for their rich and famous friends. And I would love to see that kind of change. When I was mayor of Burlington, we brought minor league baseball back into Burlington. And I wanted it to be municipally owned. And we lost the city council, I think, by a vote or two. We ended up bringing it back. They were very successful. But I'm not crazy about corporate and billionaire ownership of not only the LA Dodgers, but of virtually every major team. All right.
Senator Sanders, I appreciate you making time for Axios.
Okay. Thank you very much.